Hey guys, in this video we're going to be learning how to factor with special cases, and we have two special cases. The first one is the difference of squares, so difference of squares. And we have a principal formula for this, which is a squared minus b squared. When we have that form, we're going to get a plus b times a minus b. So let's look at a couple examples. So we have x squared minus 16. So remember to make sure that this is negative because we're talking about difference. So this is really important to make sure you have that negative there. So all we're going to do is now square root both sides. So here you're going to have an index of 2. So 2 divided by 2, that's 1. So x. And then when you have a number under a square root, you have plus or minus that value. And this only applies when you have a variable next to it. And we'll look into that in the next example. So for this one, since there is no variable next to it, it becomes the square root of 16 equals plus or minus 4. So x plus 4 times x minus 4. This would be our final answer. So our next example here is 4x squared minus 9. So first step is to take the square root. So here we have a number right next to the variable. So for this, the square root of 4 just equals 2. So 2x, because 2 divided by 2, that is 1. And then the square root of 9 gives you plus or minus 3. So we would have plus 3 here, and then times 2x minus 3. And this would be our final answer. So that is our first special case. Our second special case is called perfect square trinomial. So perfect square trinomial. So in the previous examples, we were looking at binomial. So this is one nomial, two nomials, that is binomial. And the principle for a perfect square trinomial is a squared plus or minus 2ab plus b squared gives you a plus or minus b squared. And we're going to look into this plus or minus in the examples as we go along. So let's say we had the trinomial 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. We're going to start off by taking the square root of the first and last term. So we have a variable next to the 4. So the square root of 4 is just 2. And then 2 divided by 2, that gives you 1. So x raised to the power of 1. We don't have to write that 1 over there. And then we have the square root of 9. So for this case, it would be 3. And then the sign is given from the negative over here. So that's the difference between difference of squares and perfect square trinomial. And we're not going to do 2x minus 3 again. We could write it that way, or we could just simply write it as squared. So it just makes our answer look more simplified and more clean. This would be our final answer. So let's look at another example. So let's say we had 25x squared plus 10x plus 1. So you take the square root of 25x squared and the square root of 1. So 25, the square root of 25, that is 5. X squared would be 1. So the square root of x squared is x. And then the square root of 1 is just 1. Our sign comes from the middle value, the b value, which is plus, so we have a plus over here. And we can write this as 5x plus 1 squared. And that is our final answer.